Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Long time no see. So I wanted to kind of get back into the swing of making some videos about some stuff because I got some stuff that I want to talk about, and we're gonna try to basically just go back to the old style of how I used to do videos where I just kind of talk about things that I am currently interested in at the moment, and just give my 2 cents like the good old days. So we're gonna jump into this and basically be reacting to a video, how do Dems win back young men? Now this has been a topic that I have been heavily invested in for quite some time because it is constantly a thing that comes up, and Democrats have been trying to figure out ever since they lost epically in the last election as to how to win men back, and every single instance of this conversation that I hear is the most out of touch, unreasonable, poorly thought out excuse for what I guess they're calling an outreach to men, because it's built on a foundation of complete misunderstanding, of assumptions. It does not, the actual change doesn't involve modern men anyway. Like it's a whole bunch of people outside of this spectrum talking about another group they're not involved with, they don't care about, they don't interact with. And it's just weird watching all these people try to figure this thing out when none of them are actually invested in doing so. So I kind of wanted to just watch this video, and I was going to do some kind of live reactions to it or whatever. This channel is not massive, the viewership on it is not massive, but I am curious to see what some at least reasonably younger people have to say about how to get back men into the Democratic Party, because apparently they want us back now.
Olivia writes a Substack, which probably, statistically speaking, like 89% of y'all read already. But Olivia, I want you to talk about that Substack, and I also want you to talk about one of the newer articles that you wrote about why men drifted right in the previous election. I consider myself a resident expert on this because I am a man, so I feel like we could have an interesting conversation on the conclusions you reach in that article.
So this is the main question, why are men moving to the right, or why have so many men moved to the right? And it's so weird that this is a question, because like we know the answer. Like there's no mystery to this. Like it's so obvious why men have been moving or shifting over time. You spend 10 years telling men that they're worthless, they're useless, they're too aggressive, they don't belong, they don't deserve opportunities, they don't deserve respect, they don't deserve love, that you'll pick the bear over them, that they're not real people, that they, all this stuff. Like you spend enough time telling people that, eventually they're going to be like, well, yeah, okay, well, you don't support me and I don't support you. And it's pretty simple. Like that's a fairly simple answer. But I guess the only way you can come to that answer is if you've actually been paying attention, which it's super clear that these people have not. Now, I don't know if these people in particular have been, but so far, based on what I've seen, most people who want to tackle this conversation have no idea what they're talking about. But let's see what these two have to say.
Yeah, so my Substack it's called A New Perspective, oliviajuliana.substack.com, and we're actually very close to hitting 100,000 subscribers on Substack. I'm very excited. But I write a lot about politics, and I hate that all these newsletters are the same. There's so many Substacks that you get on, and they're all telling you the same stuff. I don't want to do that. I want to give you a new perspective on the political issues that are. And so I keep seeing people talk about young men in the 2020 cycle, or in the 2024 cycle, and they keep saying like, well, it's because they're not getting laid enough and they feel judged, and or alternatively, well, they're just racist and they hate women.
Okay, yeah. I mean, those are generally some of the main key points you hear in regards to this argument. Everybody has some one-size-fit-all answer that does not really apply to all men, or most men for that reason. The last one being the most popular, that they're all just hateful, horrible monsters. In this instance, by the way, a lot of these men were the people who voted for Joe Biden before, the people who voted for Obama before, and for some reason, they weren't hateful, racist monsters then. But now, suddenly, they all have always been that way, except for when it was convenient. The narrative can always conveniently shift to whatever's the most convenient at the time, because that's just kind of how this stuff works. But part of that is true, men having these kind of direct conflicts with women, on a more interpersonal level is definitely a factor. And also, the fact that they feel disrespected or they feel not included is huge, because that's literally been the leftist narrative for a long time, is that if you're white and you're male, then you're evil by default. And the only way to, to solve this problem is to eternally prostrate yourself to white middle-aged women to vindicate whatever bullshit they're currently pushing at the time.
So like it's really, I see these takes coming out from both sides of the party wing, I would say, and I just think that all of that is wrong. I think all of it is wrong.
True, it is coming from both sides. I definitely agree. Men are being attacked from all angles right now, and it's kind of hard to find any place to feel like you belong. I think all of it is untrue, though, that's a bit of a stretch. And once again, another indication that a lot of these leftist kind of thinkers, I guess if you want to call them that, they don't see things, they don't see nuance. Like, nuance is a very foreign concept to them. Everything leads to one problem or one solution or one issue. Everything is black and white. There's very little room for, nuance or anything like that. It's either on or off. It's a 0 or 100. Like, that's it for them usually. And saying out of your mouth in regards to this situation that everything you just listed, you don't think it's any of those things at all, that it's specifically some other thing, it's kind of telling. But we'll give them a chance to further explain themselves.
And so I wrote this piece called The Politics of Getting Laid and Preachy Females, and I really dive into what I actually perceive it to be, and shocker, it's all economic anxiety. I think the Democrats have a really bad problem of every time we message to young men, we frame it in a way that is wrapped up in the same principles that we critique the patriarchy, we critique the way that men have higher hierarchy and power structures, and then we message to them as if not only is that the reality, but that they have to continue to be like that.
That's a really good point. That is a really good point. You know what? This lady might be onto something, because that's something that I've talked about for a really long time, is everything, all the messaging that they try to send to men is wrapped in hypocrisy. And when men hear it, they're like, wait a minute, isn't this like a part of the foundation of the thing that you've been supposedly fighting against this whole time? Like, how can your narrative be that, oh, these men are they're just hurt because they're not getting laid enough? But then you have an entire movement based on the fact that men shouldn't have to measure themselves by how much pussy they're getting or whatever. Like, that's been a whole big thing for you for a really long time. Toxic masculinity, but yet this person's value that you have deemed lesser than others is completely dependent on how much vagina they're getting. Like, isn't that contradictive? Like, doesn't that not make sense? You call people, like, incel is their favorite word ever. Incel is the weirdest insult for a group of people that believe in a concept like toxic masculinity. Like, it's so ironically stupid to have it's their favorite insult, by the way, but it reinforces the toxic male stereotypes that they fight against. So, like, how did we even get here? And they say it unironically all the time. It is their favorite word to use against men who they deem unworthy, is their measure of how much vagina they seem to be getting. But then, if that man was to brag about how much vagina they were getting, they call him toxic and tell him that he's horrible and he shouldn't be looking at women as sex objects. Yet that is the foundation of the criticism that they're levying towards you. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And like I said, dude, this has been an endless cycle. Everything they do is either projection or contradiction. Everything. Literally everything.
So the example I use in the article is the issue of abortion. When we message to young men on abortion, or men in general, we do it from the position of, well, real men protect women. And if you care about the women in your life, you should be pro-choice. And that might be true. That is true. But we don't come at it from the approach of, this is the reality that young men face about that issue. Because it's entirely possible that a young woman in college gets pregnant unexpectedly, and that could upend her life if she doesn't have access to abortion care. But it's also entirely true that the young guy who gets her pregnant, now he's on the hook to not only take care of this child that could be him, that could be coming into the world, but also to take care now of the mother of his child.
Okay, you know what? I'm actually kind of with this chick a bit. She seems to have actually taken the time to consider other sides. And that's the biggest thing, is like, whenever you hear people talk about this, it is so unbelievably obvious that they have never spent a moment talking to young men about these situations. Like they've never done it. They're questioning other people. They ask other women, they ask older men, they ask older women, they ask people who are not a part of the demographic, but they refuse to hear anything from the actual demographic that they're actually talking about. But this girl seems like she actually has done the work, because the points that she's making make sense. Like they're coming, the trajectory, the methodology of how they come at men with these issues is completely flawed, like 100% flawed. It's always kind of a sense of like guilt trippy kind of, you should feel bad for not being the man that we feel like you should be, which is, like I said, really weird messaging coming from people who want to crush norms, gender norms, and all that stuff. Like, it's so weird. Like, aren't you a real man? Hold on, wait a minute. Weren't you the person fighting against whatever the concept of real men was supposed to be in the first place? Like, how are you lecturing me on what being a real man is like, when you're telling me that men in general are evil creatures by default? You should be a real man. Okay, well, according to you, all men are evil. So it looks like I'm on track, huh? Like I said, it's so confusing, and any man who has thought about anything for more than 3 seconds, who has like a couple brain cells left to work with, can see the contradiction. They can see how disingenuous you people are. They're not stupid. At least most of them aren't.
And I think that it would be so much easier if we just understood that the problems we're having with young men shifting to the right, it's not because they don't agree with us on the, they do agree with politics. It's because they feel like we don't understand the struggles they're facing, the actual struggles, not the perceived struggles of the masculinity crisis or whatever it is.
That's important. That is important, because ask these people who are talking about this stuff what men's problems are, and they will give you a shopping list, an entire shopping list. They can write a full-blown manifesto about all of the problems that we prioritize, and not a single one of them is on our priority list. They could list hundreds. They can go on forever, and we'd be like, you still have not even touched on the major things that we care about, because it's all perceived. And what they say is they approach the situation like, here, I have compiled a list of things that I have deemed to be your issues. Now tell me how we're gonna fix these issues. And they're like, but those aren't my issues. These aren't things that I care about. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. These are things that you care about. I am telling you that these are things that you care about. These are important to you. So let's figure out how to fix these things. And it's just like, but they're not though. And they're like, shut up, you stupid, ignorant man. You don't know anything. I'm trying to educate you and teach you. You don't know anything. You're too stupid to understand the complexity of these things. So I have taken the liberty to tell you what your problems are. And if you're not going to help me fix them, then clearly you must just hate women. Like, you just don't care. Like, this is how they approach the situation. And this tactic doesn't work on anyone other than like children or just idiots. Like, nobody's falling for this shit.
Actual struggles. And instead, we just kind of want to blame them for all of our problems.
Right. I think there's a lot of that I just fully agree with. I mean, we just don't message to men, right? And I was like we don't message in a way that resonates to men. Like, something that you kind of responded to that I've seen a lot is, well, the reason why Republican messaging resonates with men is because men want bad things, right? So like, men want to have sex and like own women, right? Like, they want to dominate everybody, and Republicans say you get to do that, and then Democrats can't say that, so we just lost men, it's over, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, a lot of times it will be men that are liberals who will like agree with that shit.
I mean, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. That those are the messages that people usually come in. Like, it's like, oh yeah, men are just really bad people, and Republicans allow them to be bad people. But we're too, like, we're you know, and in all of our glory and justice and benevolence. Like, we don't allow men to stoop that low, which is why we can't seem to resonate with them. So we need to figure out a way that we can kind of trick them into thinking that they can be as evil as they want to be, but still, you know, support our causes. And like every angle that they comes from a point of, you're evil from default. Like, your sin, your original sin is absolute, but we just need to figure out how to get around the fact that you're a disgusting scumbag, and then, like, you know, try to trick you into thinking that your scumbagness is somehow going to help us. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a underhanded, transparent, like, we can see what you're doing. Like, you don't care about us, you care about our votes, you care about our ability to push issues, you care about our votes, you care about how useful we are to you, and that's it. None of our problems actually matter. None of the things we go through you actually care about. It's how useful we are to you, and why we aren't being more useful to you, and how you can get us to be more useful to you. Those are the only things that seem to matter, and it's so unbelievably obvious that that's the angle that you guys are coming from. Nobody wants to hear it.
I'm like, dude, what is going on? Like, there's a lot of men that don't think that way, obviously, and it's just such a negative view to take on like half of the human race.
Well, I also think it's just so abundantly clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men.
Mm-hmm.
You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campus, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys. And in that,
yeah, something's a little creepy about the way she just said that. Like, something's a little off about the way that she just, like, I love young. How old is this woman? I don't know. If that was a dude saying that, I feel like the situation would not be the same. He'd definitely be getting backlash for saying something like that. But you know what? We ain't gonna dwell on that. That's neither here nor there. No, it is, but it's not what the conversation's about right now.
I realize, like, even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage. You'd be surprised at the number of them who support a Black Lives Matter. And so I feel like people just kind of lump them into this box when the truth.
By the way, supporting Black Lives Matter is not a positive note on your list of achievements, I guess. All these things that she listed off or whatever, supporting Black Lives Matter is not a positive mark. That actually shows that you're pretty uninformed and probably kind of stupid.
Truth is, again, a lot of them are with us on the issues. They're just not part of our coalition because they feel like they're not welcomed in it.
They're not talked to, right? And yeah, they're not welcome. That's true. Like, there's a lot of times where it's like being like masculine characteristics seem like they're frowned upon, and they're kind of welcomed and championed by the Republican Party. And like, masculine characteristics are not characteristics that are intrinsically bad, right? Oh,
really? When did that happen? Although, if I'm gonna be fair, this is technically true in regards to leftists, because those same masculine traits that are disgusting, evil, and despicable, when women display them, leftists champion all the time. It's the greatest thing ever. When those same disgusting traits that are found in men that they say no human being should have because all people who have them are disgusting, when women display those, they get endless praise. So to be fair,
I think that some Democrats have presented it that way. Now, obviously not most Democrats, but it's like this perception that a lot of guys have had. In terms of issues, like, good messaging is messaging that resonates with people's actual anxieties and lived experience, right? And so, yeah, like, the Whatever podcast can resonate with men that are like incels or like struggling with women, right? Because a girl was mean to them or whatever, and they're able to project upon like those women which come on like look really dumb. They're able to say like, yeah, all women are like.
There it is. There's that insult again. There it is. And once again, like, you know, it is used as a pejorative. They use it for a reason. It symbolizes a man that is not having sex, and that for some reason devalues that man. It devalues the man, it devalues his opinions, it devalues everything that he believes in. It's kind of strange that you guys have this as an insult. It's really weird considering what you all believe in.
Yes, I feel better about myself. But there's all these other things that resonate probably more, which is like, man, shit's expensive, right? Like Like, man, I don't feel supported, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like there's anywhere for me to go, right? I feel like if something bad happens to me, no one's there to support me. That's
That's a big one. That's a huge one. You do not understand how many men are suffering from the mindset that if something happens to them, that's it. Like there's nobody will care. I cannot tell you how many people are suffering through thinking that, where it's just like nobody cares about me. If something terrible was to befall me, I would just die and that would be it. I'd just be gone and nobody would give a shit. There's nowhere I can go. There's nobody to be out there to help me. There's nobody out there fighting for me. It's just me and other depressed men.
the thing that a lot of men deal with, because men are a lot of times kind of put in the box of supporting other people. So no one's there to support themselves.
Yep.
And it's like, those are things that we can absolutely talk to. Actually, we could probably speak to better than the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think speaking to that is also understanding the mentality that they're coming from too. So another example is when you look at the polling of what are the issues that are the most important to young men, one of the top issues consistently is immigration. If you actually talk to a young guy about how he feels about immigration, am I allowed to cuss on this?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about immigration. It's this idea of scarcity and competition of, if you're a young man in America, you are expected to go to college or go to a trade school, get a certification, get a degree. Then you're expected to get a high-paying job. And then once you get your high-paying job, you're expected to find your wife and to buy a house and to have kids and to do all of these things. And if you don't do that, then you're a failure.
That's a big one. I wouldn't say that they don't give a fuck about immigration, like full stop. I think it's the political optics behind it is what they don't really care about. What they care about is how immigration affects the economy, how immigration affects their ability to get jobs, how it affects their taxes and that type of stuff like that. Like, they care about it, but it's contextualized differently. It's not like, like they all want to join ICE and stop people from coming over the border or anything like that. Most people in general, not just men, but most people in general are totally fine with the prospect of people legally coming across the border to attain opportunities. And they have literally no problem with that at all. It's when we start getting about talks of illegal immigrants coming over, sanctuary cities, these places giving these people all this infinite money that veterans and homeless people, homeless Americans and veterans have zero access to. Like, that stuff really gets under men's skin because they are usually the people in those positions. They are the veterans, they are the homeless people, they are the ones that are most affected by this stuff. So maybe not immigration as an entire concept, but it is something that they think about because it does affect them, tangentially. Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm sure somebody will correct me.
Because you are the man and you are the provider. And if you can't provide, then you're not actually a man. And so the Republicans specifically, they set this expectation and then they make it almost impossible for young men to actually do this, whether it's through not raising minimum wage, whether it's through the price of tuition going up, all these different things. And so what ends up happening is you have these young guys who they're working every single day. They're working on oil rigs, they're working at Amazon warehouses, maybe they work a 9-to-5 job. They're working every single day and they're still not getting ahead. So then we force young men to make this decision of either you can blame yourself or you can blame others. And if you're a young guy and you're working 8 to 12 hours a day, if you're paying all your bills, you're doing everything you can, and you're still not getting ahead, why do we expect them to think that they're the problem? They're doing everything that they've been told to do their entire life.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. See, man, I saw a lot of people talking about this particular video, and the framing from like the thumbnails and just like the titles and stuff kind of made it seem like these two were really out of touch or talking about like it's business as usual. But honestly, like I'm genuinely feeling like these two are having a very reasonable and grounded conversation about this. I think that they're hitting some pretty good points. And I feel like they actually do, or at least they're actually trying to show some semblance of understanding, which makes me hopeful, honestly, because I'm not one of those people that's like, I'm team Republican or team Democrat. Like, they're all fucking pieces of shit in my opinion. And whenever there's an opportunity for either one of them to genuinely grow, whenever there's a sign of either one of them starting to kind of get the plot and move towards and navigate towards a some type of understanding, you know, or genuine solution, I'm all for it. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. Like, as long as they're getting better, that works for me. I don't have any invested interest for them to fail. Just like when a president comes into office that I didn't vote for, I don't go out of my way to be like, I hope that he fails. No, I do not hope that the sitting president of my country fails, no matter who they are. I hope that they succeed. I don't like them, and I don't think they're going to succeed, which is why I didn't vote for them. But God, do I hope they do. Please prove me wrong. I want to be proven wrong. And that's like the fundamental difference between a lot of Republicans and Democrats is Democrats are like, I don't like this person. I hope he fails. I hope the country collapses. I hope it crashes. I hope everything bad that can happen happens under this president. People be damned, because as long as I feel vindicated about my hatred towards this person, then the country can suffer. Like, I don't care, because me being correct is more important than us succeeding as a country. So I don't care if this dude cures cancer. I'm going to find a way to make that bad because I don't like this person. Instead of just being like, oh, I didn't like this person. I still don't like this person, but they are doing things that I want. So keep doing that. I'm still going to criticize you. I'm still going to tell people that I don't like you or whatever, but kudos for heading in the right direction. Kudos for doing this thing. Or no, it's just, no, I don't like you. I have to hate everything you do. You are evil no matter what, even if you are doing the things that I would have voted for. Like, it's so stupid and counterproductive. And I'm not exclusively saying that this is a leftist thing. This is an extremist thing. It's just more prevalent on the left. And it seeps more into the normal, you know, group of people, as opposed to like it just being extremist on the right. It's more so kind of the norm on the left. It isn't even an extreme view. That's just kind of the norm over there, even though it is extremist to think that way. So just clarifying.
And so that kind of little nagging insecure voice in the back of the head, that's where Republicans really push through that ideology and get to young men, is because then they can convince them, well, this is the person whose fault it is. It's not your fault that you can't get ahead in America. It's the immigrants who are coming here. It's their fault because they're taking your high-paying jobs.
Right.
Yeah, and the right has their way of doing that, and so does the left. The left, they do this with black people and women, where they say, look, black people, don't worry. Nothing you've done in your life has ever affected any outcome. Every single problem you have is because of white people. Every single problem you have is because of men. Don't worry, don't change. You just stay exactly who you are. Don't change anything. Don't self-examine. There's nothing wrong with you at all. It is 100% everybody else's fault and problem. You don't have to do anything. You're perfect. Don't worry about it. You know, like this is something that is presented in very different ways on both sides, and it is divisive. It is usually a ploy for rich or wealthy people to keep poor and disenfranchised people down. And that's like across the board. Both Democrats and Republicans basically work together on that end, because the elite versus the non-elite has always been kind of the core structure of all of the problems in this country. Everybody tells you it's race. It's not. Everybody tells you it's sex. It's not. It's usually something financial. It usually has something to do with class and status. Those are like the major dividing factors, and everything else are branches on this tree. Like that's my opinion, at least.
And this hits on something that's so true. It's not that people are intrinsically prejudiced against immigrants. I mean, certainly some people are, but most people are not. The critical mass of Americans that say they care about immigration are not. It's that Republicans have made immigration an economic issue. They made it an everything issue. I mean, they point to immigrants and they say, these are the people that are taking away your livelihood.
But that's not incorrect, though. The economic portion of immigration is just a piece of the puzzle. You guys are presenting this as if what they're saying is just completely false. And this is what I was saying earlier about the way that they can't see nuance, because if these were nuanced people, like truly nuanced people, because you can see that they have a clear slight against against Republicans in general. Like, they think that the Republican viewpoint is just overall bad because of the way that they present it, because this is a part of the puzzle. It is partially an economic issue. Now, saying that it's not the whole picture is totally reasonable. Like, if he said that this is not the entire picture, but this is what they focus on, that would be fine. But I wager he's about to say that this has nothing to do with it.
The safety of your family, etc., etc., etc. And like, that's a lie. It's a vicious lie.
See? And there it is. That's a complete lie. It's not true at all. There is no truth in that whatsoever. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. There is truth to that. It's not the whole truth. And you making an argument that focusing on that as the primary or major issue is problematic for Republicans to do, I would be behind you 100%. But no, you're now pushing the opposite, and you're saying that no, this is a complete fabrication, totally untrue. Immigrants coming over into this country does not affect the economic structure of this country whatsoever. It's a total lie. That's bullshit. Nobody is buying that. So even these people who seem to have gained a little bit of nuance, who seem to have done the groundwork to talk to other people and actually listen to the people in question, they still have this kind of super extreme biased viewpoint that literally everything the opposition does or says is pure evil, and there's no gray area. This is how progress ceases to function. This is how things don't get done.
I've had a really in-depth conversation ago with some other content creators where I was talking about the messaging that the Democratic Party uses so often, and we talk about the diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. And I think where we've kind of fallen into this trap is we have made the party exclusive by trying to make, and what I mean by that is every room we walk into, the messaging that we're every single one. And
that's a really good point. And once again, the contradiction is completely visible for everybody to see. Their attempts at inclusion with these DEI programs, which is weird. Like, you think about it, we want to be inclusive. Inclusivity is our goal. Diversity is our strength. But in order to do that, we have to explicitly, outwardly, and publicly exclude certain groups of people intentionally in order to make it work. We strive and thrive on diversity and inclusiveness, but the foundation holding this diversity and inclusiveness up is explicitly exclusion. It's so crazy how that works, right? Where it's like we're fighting for literally everyone except you guys, and we want to make that abundantly clear. This is not for you. This is specifically designed to work against you, and you should be happy about it. It's so weird. This is why these same groups, these same DEI groups, can look at a room full of white men and say, this is a problem. And they can look at a room full of black women and say, this is perfect. Because diversity and inclusion has never, ever been their goal. It's a smokescreen. It has never, ever once been their goal. Never. Look at the makeup of diversity and inclusion officers. 90% women. Look at the racial makeup. 90% white. They aren't helping anybody. Diversity and inclusion has never been the goal. It is a smokescreen. They are trying to tip the scales into their favor being usually middle-aged white women, and that's what it's always been. They don't care about diversity and inclusion. It's never been important to them, ever.
I think that that's the wrong way to go about it. I think we should have one specific, this is the message we use on this issue, because people are going to interpret that message however they want to interpret. Everyone has their own form of cultural competence. So, and I think what Trump in particular is they kind of just say the same thing over and over again. And then if they ever change their opinion on it, they just say it with so much confidence that it's hard to convince people that that's not what they meant.
Okay, but here's the problem. Here's the problem with this kind of stupid, really kind of this bad faith kind of, like, because anybody else would look at this situation and say, okay, this group is saying the same thing over and over again. They're saying the same thing over and over again, and it's working. For some reason, They keep saying the same thing over and over again and it's working. They would normally come to the conclusion that, well, maybe the thing that they're saying is correct. Maybe the fact that they keep saying it over and over again is because it's something that they truly believe in and it resonates with the people. But no, that can't be on the table. It's like they're doing this malicious thing and they're saying the same thing over and over again, and then whenever they change their mind, it's never due to any type of facts or different data or any type of information that could have changed the situation, which allowed for introspection or to think outwardly and maybe look at the situation in a different way. Everything they do is malicious, no matter what. It's bad how this video has given me both hope and despair at the same time, because they're so close. They're so close. They're like at the door. The door is open. They just gotta walk in, and they're just like they're standing at the door and just kind of peeking around the corners. They ain't seen the whole picture yet because they're not in the room. They're just at the door.
So for us, I think it's just, we should just be saying the same thing about the same issue over and over and over again.
But it's not that simple. See, and this is what I'm saying. They're so simple-minded when it comes to this stuff. There's no thought put into it. Well, they're just saying the same thing and over again, so we just have to find something to say over and over again. Does that thing that you're saying over and over again have any substance? Is it actually resonating with anyone? Is it a part of the actual conversation? Is it something that people care about? Nope, none of that stuff matters. We just have to do like them and just keep repeating something over and over again until they believe us, because it's that simple. Because everybody knows that men are far too stupid to think about the nuance or to actually consider what you're saying. It's about how many times you say it, not the thing that you're saying. This is how they miss the mark every time. This is how they miss the mark every time, because there is no thought put into, there's no substance. It's all just surface level bullshit, and it never leads to a solution. They keep failing. They keep running into the same wall. They keep stepping on the same fucking rake. Oh my God.
And let the voters decide what it means through their own cultural lens, instead of telling them specifically what we mean every single time.
Right. The issue with pandering is it looks like you're pandering.
Yeah.
You don't seem genuine whenever you're saying something different in two different rooms with different demographics in them. Even if you...
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's another thing, once again, that they think that black people, women, and other minority groups or whatever are too stupid to understand. They don't think you know what pandering looks like. They don't think that you can see it when it's happening. Like the whole time they're doing this stupid shit that they're doing, and they're saying these dumb fucking things that they're saying, they genuinely believe that you're falling for it. And when I say falling for it, I mean genuinely falling for it. The objective is not for them to convince you of something that they truly believe in. This is a carefully crafted narrative that they are expecting you to fall for, because you're too stupid to really know the truth or what the real thing is. I mean, you're black, or you're a woman, or you're just a man. Like, there's no way you could really understand what's going on. We just have to convince you that we know what we're talking about, because, I mean, you know, there's no way you could know any better.
You are being genuine, but sometimes it's just not, right? Like the Kamala Harris's agenda for black men, I don't think that really went anywhere, because it just seems so kind of contrived. It seems so like...
Well, and this is the same thing, it's the same thing that Hillary Clinton did, where it's built, like, you'll have people on the right throw out these claims of like, well, what are you doing for this group? And we'll have these long-winded, like, explanations with these details and these figures, and then we can go out and talk about it so we're blue in the face, but at that point, the conversation's already moved on, because they didn't actually care about the answer, they cared about how they felt about it. And so I feel like... Exactly.
That's essentially the point that I was making before. The answer, the substance of the answer, and whether or not it resonated with the people is completely irrelevant. They don't give a fuck about that at all. The only thing they care about is after they get done spewing the garbage that they just spewed, how it makes them feel inside. And they're like, man, if I was a dumb Negro, I would have been like, oh man, that would have been great to hear. Or if I was a stupid female, I would have been like, oh, okay, that's what I like to hear. Because that's what they really think about you. These are the things they really think about you. So it's not the substance of what they said and whether or not it resonates with them. It's how they feel about what they said. because they're like, yeah, these people are stupid enough or smart enough to be able to understand something this low level. Like, I feel like I did a pretty good job, you know. and that's the important part. They're in their head after they said it, like, nailed it. That's right. And not a single second is spent on whether or not they said something you actually cared about or whatever. They know the narrative, and if they stuck to the script, then they're like, good, I did it.
Like, we just get into these specifics so frequently that frankly, like, people just don't care about.
But we need simple ideas that you articulate all the time, right? It's like, for instance, build more housing, right? And somebody says, well, how does that benefit this group? It's like, well, do you live in housing? Like, there's some big economic issues that hit everybody. Affordability is one of the most central ones. And that's something that we should champion. And the good news is it helps everyone, right? It's not just good policy all the time, but it's also like, we don't need to have different messages for different groups, in large part because there isn't different policy solutions for different groups.
Well, they do. They do, because they consider these different groups different people. Like I said, it's all projection. Like, they have this idea that everybody is the same. You should treat everybody the same. Not a single leftist policy is based off of this idea. Everything that they do is built on a foundation of identity politics. And whenever they talk to different groups, they feel it's necessary to speak to them differently because clearly they're different people. They're not the same. And that's true to a certain extent. Not everybody is the same, but it's a lot more malicious the way that they do it, because it's like, okay, all right, I'm in a room full of Negroes, better turn on my Negro talk, or I'm talking to, you know, sassy women, so better snap my fingers a couple times and fucking jerk my neck around or some shit. Like, they put on these personas that they feel will speak to these different groups based off of negative stereotypes or just stereotypes in general that they've created for these people, because they like, oh, this will work on them. So it's not so much as here's a group of people who has a problem that I want to solve. It's here's a group of people, let me put on this mask so I can convince them that I have the solution to their problem. And it's why we're here. It's why we're doing what we're doing right now.
It's like targeted policies are usually ones that are kind of watered down, right? They're kind of less, you know, like increasing funding for specific grant programs for certain races of businesses. I mean, that's great and all, and we've had that for a long time, but that's not going to fix the big economic inequality and opportunity issues we have in this country. The only thing that could do that is dramatic investments, is a huge expansion of the social support system, et cetera. And that's the kind of stuff that we should probably focus on talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you look at things like, you know, the healthcare plan, or, you know, homeowners, like first-time loans up to this amount or this percentage. I need Democrats to start talking like, well, what's your healthcare policy? My healthcare policy is healthcare should be good and cheap.
right, because he doesn't explain like, I'm gonna do price transparency, like a price.
And you know what, to a certain degree, I kind of understand where they're saying, where they get kind of into the weeds, they get into these complicated explanations, these long-winded, that don't really resonate with people. But there's a little bit of condescension, I think, sprinkled into here, where it seems like what they're saying is dumb everything down because these people aren't really smart enough to understand beyond that. Like, keep the concepts and the situation simple because you're dealing with simple-minded people. Now, that could just be my bias, you know, against these people. And that's kind of how I'm interpreting it. I'm totally willing to accept the fact that I have a inherent bias, and that's just where I'm going because I don't like them. Completely, 100%. If that's what you think, that's fine. I'm willing to accept that reality. But it feels that way. It feels like they're not trying to say simplify it in order to give people a better chance, or, you know, for understanding or for clear communication. It seems like they're saying like, you know, like these people, they don't really, you know, it just feels off to me. It doesn't feel genuine, like their intentions are particularly good. It just sounds like a manipulation tactic.
Statute, and I'm going to expand the premium tax credit, whatever. Like,
no.
Republicans never say the word tax credit. Why do we say the word tax credit all the time?
I think it's because like we're still operating in this like fallout of Reagan, Bill Clinton mentality. But the difference is that most Democrats don't have the charisma that Bill Clinton had. And so instead of leaning on the charisma, they lean on the details.
You know what? That's actually a really good point. the reason that Obama ended up being so popular, despite the fact that his tenure and what we ended up with at the end of the day ended up being so kind of abysmal, is he had charisma. Obama was a likable dude. He was. Regardless of what you think about Obama and how his policies and stuff were done, like whenever he was on screen and he was talking, he just seemed like a cool dude. And that's the one of the biggest issues that I've had with a lot of Democrats over time, is most of them are insufferable. They're unlikable, aggressive, passive aggressive, or just condescending. They have this overall level of just like pure superiority. They're always talking down to you, or feel like they need to educate you or explain something to you. Like they have this general just like negative vibe about them. But Obama, he managed to go 2 terms back to back, because despite the fact that, you know, all the promises and a lot of shit that he said he was going to do, he didn't. Dude was pretty likable overall.
And I just don't think it translates the same way. We just come off as a bunch of dorks. Like that's just the truth. We just come off as a bunch of dorks. Nobody wants to listen to a dork.
I think voters like people they think are smart, but they don't like people that they don't understand, right? They want to feel like they understand what you're saying and it's smart, not just like, I don't understand what they're saying, therefore they're smart.
I don't know about that, because smart, what you see, and once again, like it just comes off condescending, because the implication here is like the people who they are putting forth, like, you know, Kamala Harris and all these people, they're super smart, like super duper smart. But these the reason people don't like them is because they're too dumb to actually understand the things that they're saying. So we need to dumb down. Like what we need to do is we need to dumb down the things and be more approachable, so that way the stupid people can actually resonate with these super smart, intelligent people. Like that's like I said, maybe I'm being unfair, but it really feels like that's what they're saying. It's not about them being smart and us being able to understand them. It's us being able to relate to them. It's us being able to interpret the things that they're saying as things that make sense and that matter to us. It's not about them really being smart. It's not about their intelligence. Most people are not thinking about how intelligent a politician is when they're listening to them. They're thinking about, are the things that they're talking about resonating with me? Are the things that they're talking about actual problems that I have? Are the things that they're talking about going to solve my problems? It has nothing to do with how smart these people are. It's just, like I said, it's condescending. It sounds like they're insulting people as opposed to like trying to come up with solutions. And I just can't shake that feeling. Like everything that they say has like a tinge of just like, I hope I'm making myself clear.
Right. And they also like simple solutions, right? Like we don't need to talk about each detail of each healthcare policy. We can just say, like you said, what we're going to do, right? And you can tell people the basic details about how you're going to do it. You don't need to really get in the weeds. And you also don't need to talk about 20 things at once. I think that's part of the issue with the Democratic coalition. The Republican coalition is like, we want border security, tax cuts, whatever. There's like 5 things that they actually care about. And then there's minor things. And for the Democrats, it's like, well, we're really diverse, actually. We want a lot of different things. But we need to learn to prioritize, because not every issue deserves to be brought into the spotlight just for any reason. Whenever
Okay, I know I'm beating the shit out of this dead horse, but once again, Republicans, they have 5 things that they care about, and that's all they talk about. But we're diverse and interesting. We have a whole bunch of things that we want to do, but because it's so many and we just have all these good things, we talk about them all at once, and that's our problem. No, it's not. Maybe, just maybe, Republicans focus on these specific 5 things because these specific 5 things are the things that people actually care about. Maybe that's why they focus on those things. Maybe that's why they don't bombard people with hundreds of other small or micro issues that usually are solved by fixing the primary issues, because like I said, you know, most of these like micro problems that people don't really put at the forefront of their mind are just symptoms of these larger problems that need to be focused on. So, but they haven't considered that. The Republicans only talk about like 5 things. It's the only thing that they care about because they're stupid and not nuanced. They're not as smart as us. But us, we have so many things, all these things or whatever, and we just want to talk about them all, and that's what makes us better, but we got to dumb it down for the idiots because they're not smart enough to handle all those things at once. It's just very condescending to me.
When you go to a door as a Democrat and you knock on the door to talk to a voter about the things that your party supports, they should already know what those things are. If they don't, that means that you're not doing a good job messaging. If you go to somebody, you ask them, what does Trump support? They're going to be able to list at least 2 things, probably. They can't list anything for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and that's a key point. When you go around and you ask these people, and we have tons of footage of people like, I support Kamala Harris, I support her, I love what she's doing, she has a vision. Okay, what is she doing? What's her vision? And they're like, you know, she wants to do the good things, the things that are good. Okay, what are those things? Hold on, they gave us a list of it just says good things on the list. It just says the good things. That's all I know, the things that I like. And I'm just like, bro, you got nothing. They asked college kids and people who were you know, diehard Kamala fans, like, what exactly is she going to do for you or your people or your causes? And they're just like, I don't know, I have no idea, I just know that it's good, that's it. Like, how do you not know? How can you not know? How can you put your full support behind somebody and have no idea what it is they're going to do for you? It's never made sense to me.
$30,000 home buyer tax credit, whatever. No, there's 0% chance they could list anything because there's just so many ideas and they're all so contrived.
Well, no, that's not true. They'll say that she supports sex changes for transgender illegal aliens in prison.
A center of her platform, yes.
It was a central part of her platform. Yeah, I mean, it's just the same thing over and over again. It's kind of like, you know, guys, what are we doing? I think of it as America, or voters in general, when they're deciding who they want to vote for, they want a mom and they want a dad. Not to be homophobes, there can be, you know, same-sex parents here.
Oh my god. All right, I'm done with this video. I am done. I have heard enough. Overall, I think that these two are on the right track. I think that they're well-intentioned for the most part, but I do think that they have glaring biases that they don't try to hide whatsoever. So do I. I'm sure after people watch my reaction to this, they'll probably be thinking like, you do too, motherfucker. I'm not denying that. But I think that they're, like I said, they're spending a whole lot of time standing outside of the room, peeking in and checking the corners to see as much as they could possibly see. But it seems like they're trying to stay out of the room. They don't want to go in there because icky, stupid Republican people are in there. But I will extend you the courtesy at least to stand outside of your dirty little bubble and just peek in to see if I can try to catch a glimpse on what's actually going on in there. And to me, you know, it's an improvement. It seems like they're getting closer and closer to actually trying to figure out what's going on. But until they get in the room, until they are in the room with us, it's always going to feel disingenuous. It's always going to feel condescending because everything that they do sounds like a superior species examining an inferior one and just trying to figure out how they tick, you know? That's what it comes off as. Like, we got to figure these people out. Like, how do they work, you know? And it's condescending to me. It just comes off that way. Everything that they say and everything that they do seems to be just kind of dipped in this condescension that makes me want to just like deflect the message. But like I said, I'm not gonna say it's all bad. Definitely seeing some of the points that they made, listening to some of the things that they said are issues that need to be addressed, particularly with the Democratic Party and particularly with their messaging and how they approach men or just people in general. You know, overall, I'm positive about this video. I don't think it was a bad one. I think it was a good listen. I think that this conversation would have gone better if they had a Republican and a Democrat talking to each other instead of 2 Democrats, because I've noticed whenever there's 2 leftists in the room having a conversation, they're just like bouncing off each other's stupidity sometimes. And it's a lot of it's a lot of yes manning going on, you know, where it's just like, oh, you know, you made a good point. Let me compound on your point with another point that's basically the exact same thing. And there's never any friction. There's never any like when you sometimes when you see like two Republicans or two right-wing people have a conversation about something, there's a little friction. You know what I mean? There's like because there's a bit of differing of opinion there. Like, you know that these people fundamentally believe the same thing, but they feel very differently about certain things. So you get a little bit of pushback. Like, they challenge each other on their viewpoints, but none of that seemed to really happen in this video. It was just, you know, two people who are very like-minded, who agree with everything the other person said, which is not wrong in itself, but nothing progressed. Like, it didn't seem like anything was learned or figured out in this conversation. It just seemed like they were just confirming all the things that they currently know, which, you know, like I said, it's not inherently bad. It's just unproductive, in my opinion. So that's my thought points on this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. This video was pretty long-winded, but I don't care. Like I said, the content that I'm going to be dropping on this video in the near future is just going to be me speaking very candidly about things that I am remotely interested in, and that's it. No fancy editing, none of the other crap that I've been obsessing over the years. We're getting back to basics here. I'm just going to talk shit about the things that I want to talk shit about and end the fucking video. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.